Hello, my name's Vicky and I'm a final year human biology student at Loughborough University, and today I'm just going to be taking you through like a typical day in the life of a biology student, just to give you an insight into what it's like to study a biology degree. Now, of course, we're in a global pandemic at the moment, so I'm obviously not at university. I would have liked to have shown you around and give you a proper insight into a typical day that I'd have, but I can't, so I'll just be speaking to you on camera to try and give you an insight into what I get up to during my degree and how I found it. So in terms of my typical schedule during my degree, it varies day to day and it also varies year to year. So I study human biology, so that means that my week is typically made up of labs, tutorials, seminars and lectures. So it varies, obviously, degree courses that you study elsewhere, in terms of if you're doing biological sciences or human biology or biochemistry. So it can vary, but this is just what I typically have. So labs can be either wet or dry. So if you have a wet lab, that's basically where you're doing pipetting and actual experiments in a lab that you think of a stereotypical biological student would do. So maybe using petri dishes, pipettes, things like that. And then you can also have dry labs, and this is where you maybe would just monitor something going on rather than actually carry out a physical experiment. So maybe you have a physiology dry lab, and that's where you will monitor someone who's running a VO2 max test, for example. So then you also have lectures. So lectures are basically just where a researcher or a lecturer will just stand at the front of a big lecture theatre and they will give a presentation on a topic that you're studying. They'll basically just talk at you. Some lecturers give opportunities to ask questions. Some maybe use voting systems online so you can get involved during the lecture. But other than that, it's basically just them presenting at you and you taking notes however it is you take notes. So that can be on a computer, it can be writing notes, it can just be sitting listening. Some people just listen and take in all the information, but I typically type on my computer because I just find it easier. They also release the lecture slides prior to a lecture, so that's another thing that you can be doing in your week. You can be preparing for lectures if that's something that you like to do. Some people like to download the PowerPoint slides and type them up or write them down so that when they're at the lecture, all they have to do is listen to what the lecturer is saying, which is quite a good way to do it. I personally just have the PowerPoint slides next to my Word document so I can just copy across if I need to, anything that's important. You also then have tutorials, and so tutorials can compose of either just a group discussion, maybe talking about the lecture, talking about a reading. You usually have to prepare for them, so that's another thing that you're doing your typical schedule. But they can also involve computer labs, so that's basically where you're learning about data analysis and statistics and programming and things like that for biology. So in terms of when you do a lab experiment, you then have to write up a report usually. So that is how you write up your data analysis, because you need to be able to infer statistics and know what they all mean. And it also helps in terms of when you're reading papers, understanding what they've actually found, because a lot of papers report their statistics. So doing the computer labs I found really useful because you can understand statistics a lot better, and that helps understand the biology behind it. So if there's a causal relationship or a correlation relationship, things like that. And then finally, you can have seminars. So seminars are really similar to tutorials, just small groups having discussions about things in the lecture or maybe topics that you need to discuss. So for example, in genetics, we have seminars discussing the ethics of genetics, and it's a proper sort of debate that people would have in the real world as well, in terms of using genetic testing or anything like that. So yeah, it's mainly just discussions and seminars and just group work, maybe some group presentations. So that's what your week would usually be composed of in terms of contact hours. So that's how many hours you're actually at university. But then you also have a lot of independent work. So I mentioned a couple of things like preparing for lectures, preparing for tutorials. So that's all the before bit that you need to do. You also need to prepare for labs quite a lot of the time, maybe at planning experiments or something like that. Also in your independent time, you kind of need to keep on top of your lectures and your seminars, so making your notes in whatever way you do, because you do have exams in January and June, so you kind of want to keep on top of them. Unless you're someone that does it all at the end, you can do that, but that's obviously again in your own time. So that's sort of the independent work that you have to do with it. And then you also have readings. So I don't know if you heard about readings at university, but this is where they would usually set some reading which is that coincides with the lecture content. So it kind of just enhances your learning. Some of them will be compulsory and some of them will just be optional. Compulsory is usually just because they're going to exam you on it, so you need to make sure that you have prepared and read the actual content that they need you to read, because there may be something in the reading that's not in the lecture or vice versa. But reading's also just really useful. It gets you used to, like I said, reading scientific papers if it's an article that they've told you to read, or just getting to know journals and books that are really useful in terms of biology and preparing for later research projects or anything like that. So yeah, the typical schedule just varies. You usually have, in terms of contact hours, in first year you have about 16 hours, that's what I had, but then in second year it decreases to about 12, and in final year it decreases in further to 6. And just because your contact hours are decreasing, your independent work is definitely increasing, so you have a lot more independent readings to do, independent preparations, independent assignments and write-ups from labs and things like that. So that's how your typical schedule would be. So yeah. So I'm now just going to talk to you about the facilities that you use as a human biology student. Basically, it's a bit of everything. So obviously, like I said, you study in labs quite a lot, so you're using a lot of the lab facilities. So there's a building in Loughborough called Clyde Williams, and that's where a lot of their dry labs are based, so your physiology labs. There are some wet labs in there too, so some genetic labs and things like that, which have PCR machines, which will carry out genetic analysis on. But it's basically just where the equipment is in the lab. So that's one example. But then there's also the STEM lab, which is a new investment from the university, which has amazing facilities. It's a state-of-the-art building, honestly, in terms of science facilities. So you can carry out research in there. You may have some lectures near the STEM lab, but mainly you're just doing labs inside there, using the equipment and the specialist equipment that's all there, really. You also obviously use lecture halls. So lecture halls is where you will have your lectures. You use seminar and tutorial rooms. That's where you'll have your discussions, your seminars and tutorials. You'll use computer labs to do your data analysis as well, maybe following a lab, or potentially just to practice in terms of learning how to use program and software. So there really, you get a taste of everything with a biology degree. You're all over campus, you're using all these different facilities, so it's a great opportunity throughout your degree to see the different facilities that the university have. So that's obviously in your degree, your contact hours, but then also outside of your contact hours, you have independent learning. So people may choose to do that at home or in their university halls, but you can also do it in terms of using the university facilities as well. So they have a lot of study areas all around campus. Obviously you have the big library, but there's also little study areas all around. So my school, my department of Health and Exercise Sciences, have a little area that people can study in. So people from our courses can all study there. So that's quite nice, knowing that everyone's studying the same sort of degrees. And yeah, you can study in all different places all around campus, so they're all facilities that you can use. Obviously there's loads of cafes and things like that all around campus that you can use in between your lectures. And so then outside of the degree, you can use all the facilities on campus in the sense of, depending if you've got memberships or anything like that, but Student Union is another great place. In the day you can go study there, but then overnight you can go out. You've also got the gyms, the swimming pool, the sports facilities, obviously society facilities. There's so many different places you can get involved in. So basically with a biology degree, you get a bit of a taste of everything, so it's quite good. I'm quickly going to talk about the extracurricular activities that you can be involved in at university, but also any in particular STEM activities, so that's science, technology, engineering and maths, that you may be able to get involved with. So for me, the extracurricular activities that I did was a lot of sport-based. I mean, I know it's stereotypical, at Loughborough you do sport, but I promise you there's so much more available as well. So I participated in a lot of hall sports, so that's basically where your university hall that you may be in first year, you can play for them against other university halls. So it's a really good opportunity to play sport and a variety of sport. I played netball, football, rounders, any of it really, anything that was on offer. I got involved in, so that's just at a lower level but still competitive and still fun. But you can also obviously play for the university in terms of sports clubs, in terms of the athletic union, so that's like the main union that the clubs affiliate to go and play against other universities in different sports, all the way from archery to canoeing to swimming to netball, all of it. They do loads of sports available. And then you can also just get involved in my lifestyle sports and department sports. So that's basically where you maybe play for your department. So I'll play for the School of Sport and Exercise Science, and I'll play against, I don't know, maybe the School of Engineering, in terms of netball, football. So that's a really good way to get involved in sport, which again is not at that super elite level, but it's just good enough for everyone to get involved in and have a good time. And then my lifestyle sport, that's where you can try a new sport. So I tried badminton with that and lacrosse and things like that. So it just depends what you want to get involved with in terms of sport. at Loughborough, there's obviously so many opportunities, but it's not just for the elite people, it can be at any level. And then societies that I was involved in, there's again so many societies, from the glitter society to video gaming. It depends what you want to get involved with. I was involved with a couple, such as the glitter society, the cocktail making society. It's just a really good way to meet people, and to again be involved in a club, so that you can be able to see them on nights out and see them around campus, and again just grow your friendship groups and things like that. In terms of extracurricular activities that are related to STEM, so actual science, technology, engineering and maths, there's so many different societies which can revolve around that. For example, there's the Bone Marrow Society, which is another one that I was involved with, that basically raises money for bone marrow research. So that's a great thing to be involved with if you maybe want to go on to do medicine or anything like that. There's a lot of obviously engineering things, societies like that, that you can get involved with. And then in terms of STEM, I worked with the university on a lot of STEM outreach projects, so where you go and talk to younger people about STEM, and like this sort of scenario now where I'm explaining a biology degree, you can go influence young people to increase the involvement into STEM, particularly girls. I worked on a summer camp called Girls into STEM that the university runs. So all of that is through the Student Ambassador Network, so it's a part-time role that you can do at university. And again, it's really good in terms of STEM opportunities, because you can work on summer camps, you can go and talk to lecturers in terms of the STEM opportunities that they have, so you can inform the younger people. Other extracurricular activities that surround STEM, there's a lot of external events that come in to potentially talk about new STEM developments and things like that. So you just book on to go to these events. It may be employers, or like I said, it may be a new researcher coming onto campus to talk about things. So there's all those things that you can book onto as well, to increase your STEM involvement if it's something that you're interested in. So in terms of student life, throughout my degree, it's probably been the best 3 years of my life. I know that's very stereotypical, but student life is quite different obviously to when you're in school. You gain a lot more independence when you go to university. You may be moving away from home, but even if you're not, you're learning to juggle your degree, your work balance, alongside your life balance. You know, the work-life balance, you've probably heard of that, but that is what you're kind of doing at university, because you have your degree, but then you also have all these other things that you may be involved in, from societies to sports to just in general social life. You may have part-time work, so it's all about balancing it, and you don't have a teacher telling you what to do, you have to do it yourself. So that's obviously a big thing of student life. Another big thing of student life is, again, the social life. You know, you meet so many new people when you go to university, like I said, from all around the world. So you have a different sort of social life that you may not have had at school. Maybe when you're at school, it was a small school, so it's just a small town, you know those people. When you go to university, you meet a variety of different people from all different backgrounds. And that's a really interesting thing to be able to do, and a great opportunity to be able to network with different people, and again, just create different friendship groups that you may have for life. Another aspect of student life, like I said, is living on your own, potentially if you move out, not on your own necessarily, you may live with friends from university, but so this is a different aspect that people maybe don't think about, in the sense that it is different when you live away from home. You do have to do a lot of everything for yourself, so food shopping, washing up, normal washing, cleaning your room, all that sort of stuff. And like I said, you're not necessarily being told to do it, but if you're living with other people, obviously it's respectful to be able to do all of that, and just in general, it's living on your own and getting used to being independent, and that's a big part of student life as well. But yeah, student life is definitely a good life. You can go and work and also play, people say. So, you know, you've got your degree, but sometimes your degree gets forgotten in the midst of everything else that you're getting involved with, because there's so many opportunities at university to get involved in. And I just say get involved as much as possible, because you'll never have the opportunities like it again necessarily. So it's a great thing to get involved in. Another thing with student life is obviously money. Money is a big thing, in the sense that you're a student, you may not have time to have a part-time job. If you do, you may not be getting paid the most. You've got to be able to balance paying tuition fees, paying your rent, all things that you may not have done before. So it's important to be able to have a money plan, know what you're doing, speak to banks and get helps in terms of student bank accounts and things like that. That's another aspect of student life that you have to consider. But all in all, it is really good, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my 3 years at Loughborough. I'm sad that it's come to an end now, but I have really, really enjoyed it. So I hope that from watching this video, you've got a bit of an insight into a human biology degree student life and what it can entail, and the facilities that we use and things like that. And good luck with everything in the future. Thank you.